Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode I want to talk about stretches and how they can benefit your dog, but also the negatives of stretching. So what do I mean by stretching? Well, let's start by saying there's two types of stretching. There is what we would call the manipulated stretching or forced stretching, where you, if I turn Sparrow around, can you come here, my love? Sit. Be where I lifted up her leg and I stretched it for her. So that's, if you like, it's a forced stretch because I am forcing the stretch. I'm causing her to stretch. Then there's the lured or guided stretch or self-stretching, which would be if I do it with Swift, which would be if she's standing up and I asked her to turn her head on a treat. So she's turning herself. Those are your two types of stretches, and you can use stretches obviously before a run to warm your dog up. There is a lot of discussion in the world of sports about how beneficial stretching a muscle is. If you ever spend time with runners, there is a lot of controversy about whether stretching actually improves your speed or whether it's actually detrimental. When we're doing stretches, what we're actually doing is we're causing the muscle to extend artificially and move. This can increase flexibility, which is good if we're doing something like acrobatics and stuff like that. We need flexibility, but it can technically cause the muscle to be weaker for stamina-based exercise. I learned about this when I was doing HIIT circuit training. And because I do have hypermobility, so that stretching my muscles is awkward, they are already too flexible anyway. I discovered that when I stretched before I did a HIIT circuit training, I couldn't do as much exercise. My muscles, I didn't have the strength for me to do as much compared to if I didn't. Simple as. So some runners say don't. Some runners say don't stretch. You do other forms of things to warm yourself up, such as light walking to get the muscles going. You can do a thing where you scrub the muscles, so you just stimulate the blood in them, but you're not actually stretching. Gentle massage to smooth out the dog's body line. And you'll do things like that, which are dynamic stretching, they call it, rather than static stretching. So static stretching is again where you do yourself, you do school, you would lean back on your leg and stretch your leg. That's a static stretch. Dynamic stretching is where your body is doing something and it's stretching as a result. Now, I work with my physio a lot about the best ways to warm up the dogs because I've got concerns about these things. And we have different types of concerns with Sparrow and Swift. With Sparrow, she's got luxating patella. Because she's got luxating patella, we don't want to encourage the patella to come out and stretch. We spent a lot of time tightening up the muscles, making sure they're nice and tight around that knee to hold it in place. We've done a very good job, I have to say. What we don't want to do is to start doing exercises where we start stretching her back legs out, so on Swift, I could actually lift her leg and stretch her back leg out. We don't want to do that with Sparrow because what we are actually doing is putting the knee in a position we don't want it to be, and we're actually stretching it when we want the knee to stay in place and be taut. We are actually potentially putting it at risk of coming out. Now, before I did physio, before I knew much about her luxating patella, I did do stretches like that. And I noticed that when I did stretches like that, Sparrow jumped worse. If I did them before a run, she jumped worse. So that was something to bear in mind. I don't do any form of forced stretching on the dogs before runs because I think, hello my gorgeous, because what you can do is you can overstretch the muscle. It then is, you could actually push your dog, say your dog has got a slight tension or tightness in the muscles, which you haven't, not necessarily an injury, but just tightness. By overstretching it, you could actually make things worse. And as I said, they do know that stretching, while it improves your flexibility, which would be, say, good for the weaves, it does diminish your strength of muscles. And of course, the majority of agility course is jumping, and you want that strength. But some of the stretches I will do with them, which are, get down my love, which are not what I'd call static stretches or forced stretches, but are dynamic, are things like this. So this would be my high five. Now in the high five, sit. Sparrow's using her paw. She's putting her paw out. It's not a hyperextension, but it's extended enough. She's just warming that muscle up. It is warming that muscle up rather than stretching the muscle. We also I can do this with Swift. We do a lot of sits to stands, which we showed in another video, because stand up. Again, we're just gently warming those muscles up. Stand up, good girl. Warming that back end up, getting those muscles working, ready for action. So they're not going in cold, but we're not pulling them in that direction that can actually cause them to be overflexed or strengthening gone. Another stretch we could potentially do, which I do sometimes, is I have the dog in front of me and I gently pull their head round. Just get them to stretch their neck a little bit. Do that because that just, to get flexibility in the neck. That is quite useful, I think, for the weaves. But I don't, as I said, this is not a forced stretch. I tend to go by what the dog can do. We don't overpull them. Because I'm luring them, they might go further than I want them to. They might push themselves because there's a treat involved. I certainly know with Swift she wouldn't. With Sparrow, who knows. But yeah, so I do stuff like that. I'm also going to spend time massaging the muscles. Oh, she said good. So I'm going to put my fingers in there, rub the muscles. Oh, she says that is so good. Making sure they're all loose. This is also myofascial, I can't say it, myofascial release. So I'm getting helping the muscles to be more, the skin and the muscles to move and flow better. So I'm going to just do gentle warms around there, massaging, just getting my fingers in there, rub down the spine. Good girl. Same on Swift. Can we do it on you? So we're just going to just rub down the spine, start to get a bit of movement going, especially around the shoulders and neck. I like to get in there, get sort of really sort of massaging, get those muscles sort of nice and soft and ready to work. So that is a basic overview of stretching, how it can be an advantage, how you can use it effectively, but how you've also got to be very careful with it. It's one of them things, it is very controversial. I know of a runner who'd competed at an amateur level but successfully in marathons and all sorts of things, and I once said to him, he was 70 at the time, and I said to him, and he was still running, still doing marathons, and I said to him, what's your warm-up routine? I said, how do you stretch to start? And he goes, stretching? He said, I've never warmed up in my life. And that made me stop and think. And I've seen that a lot. So it's something to bear in mind. We want to do the best for our dogs. We want to encourage them. But in actual fact, that sometimes stretching can be detrimental and doesn't achieve what we want. So I hope that helps you to have a bit better understanding of stretching and how you can do stuff for your warm-ups without putting that strain on them. And I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video. And if you have, you might have subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram.